Let's expand my discussion from last night about Jaylen Brown's knee. Is there value to him trying to play through pain and trying to figure it out? Plus, who on this team will ultimately be a Hall of Famer? We're answering those questions right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Being down, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's. Who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT Karalis. Recap the madness every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Jrue KP. Tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started. Raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I got you covered every Monday through Friday with a free podcast that drops directly to your device. Normally, bonus podcasts on the weekends when they play, but I'm not sure there's going to be a ton of interest about this Friday night game against the Suns without Kevin Durant. But look, if something great happens, I will do a bonus podcast. Otherwise, I think combining the Suns game and the Wizards game on Sunday into one podcast for you is going to be great. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts so you can get that dropped directly to your favorite podcasting app. Watch the show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Let me know. Join the everydayers, the people who are here every podcast commenting. I'm John Karalis. I have been covering the Celtics for about 20 years now, doing it as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. New customers, you make a $5 bet that wins. You get $200 in bonus bets, so go check that out at FanDuel.com. Later on, who's a Hall of Famer? We've broached the subject before. I've been saying this is the time to celebrate these guys, appreciate the fact that the 20s Celtics are in their heyday, and there's going to be a lot of Hall of Famers. How many exactly? We'll debate that a little bit. We're going to start. The big topic here right now for Celtics is Jaylen Brown's knee. And when I say we are going to talk about Jaylen Brown's knee, it's because we is me and Tom Westerholm. Tom, how you doing, buddy?
What up?
Tom, you can find Tom's stuff over at boston.com. Does some nice takeaways after every game, so go read that stuff over there. Look, Jaylen Brown is, Tom, you stop me if you think I'm overstepping this, important to the Boston Celtics. Fair to say?
I'll let it slide. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll let it. We'll roll with it.
So a knee injury that he admitted after the game against Miami, like, yeah, you're going to have to get used to playing through some pain. Yeah, this is going to be, he basically said this is his new reality, and didn't make it seem like anything was changing anytime soon.
Yeah.
I've been saying a ton on this podcast, rest. And he kind of has here and there. He flat out said the 65 game threshold is not an issue. I don't entirely believe that that's true. But I'll tell you what, we're going to find out if that's true.
Yep.
Because if he plays, he's only got how many games has he played now?
Well, I think he's going to be, if I think he's got 2 games of wiggle room, right? Like he can miss 2 more. I believe that's right.
He has played, standby, 60 games this season. And the Celtics have played 8 games left.
I believe that's right.
So let's see. They're 56-20. So there's 6 games left. So he has played 60 games.
Okay.
He needs 5.
I had that wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. He needs 5. And that's 1 game off.
And there are some games. I mean, none of these games really matter, but there are some games
that really don't matter.
Really do not matter.
So we're going to find out if Jaylen Brown's telling the truth here.
If he plays 2 out of 3 in the 2 Charlotte and the 1 Wizards games, buddy.
So, I'd love to be talking about anything else, sure. Right? I'd love to be sitting here talking about the Miami Heat. Are they going to be a challenge? Oh my God, they could play. They could get into that 7-8. Could they be a challenge? Do we care? honestly. Side note, do we care about the first round opponent?
I mean, yeah, because we're going to be not because we think that they're going to challenge the Celtics, but it's interesting to know who the Celtics are going to play for a bunch of games in a row.
Sure.
I mean, and it's last night's game, like that it meant that it could kind of go either way. That was kind of the Celtics' chance to, I feel really relegate the Heat to having to fight to take on the Cavaliers. Like that was.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not putting any stock into that.
That's fair. I mean, I don't think that like you look at that Heat team and think to yourself like, wow, they're on a roll right now. Like, here come the Heat. They always do this. Like, I'm not really thinking that looking at this roster. Like, it's not a scary roster by any means, especially not if the three guys who are missing were not missing anymore.
We're recording this before the end of the Miami-Memphis game. So who knows? They could be they're knocking on the door. Orlando is at 38-40. Atlanta's at 36-40. Miami's at 35-41. They're, as I'm speaking, they're down 3 to Memphis. So they could get up there. They could surpass Atlanta. Maybe. Don't know.
Yeah.
And then, Orlando, Miami, then at least from a beat writer perspective, like, hey, it's at least Florida. I know I'm going to Florida for the first round. So I'm packing shorts. But I would the challenge of podcasting about the Celtics is that first round preview is Boston sweep. Yeah, Boston sweep. Okay, that's enough. Like, are we really getting into the nitty gritty of Pell Larson and is he going to be, what's he going to do in that first round against the Celtics? Maybe Miami makes it interesting by winning one of those home games, and we get to do one day of, oh wow, maybe the Celtics really aren't that good at home. It's a good thing that the finals could potentially be starting on the road. But I got nothing else here. Jaylen Brown's knee being healthy throughout the course of the playoffs is the number one thing, the number one storyline by far for the Celtics. And the second one would be Kristaps Porzingis, who, knock on wood, right now there's no injury discussion. And let's hope that lasts for a couple of months. So we'll know if Jaylen Brown is lying about the 65 game thing, because Friday night, Phoenix, one day off, Sunday, Washington, one day off, New York, Orlando, back-to-back. That is, generally speaking, a difficult back-to-back. That's the one we've talked about, that Miami down to that part of Florida. It's not quite Miami, but it's only like a little less than an hour difference in flight time. You're still doing a short turnaround. There's no way the Celtics play everybody. There's no way that Jaylen Brown should play in the back-to-back there. So if he sits one of those games, and I would assume for knee pain management, you would not play him in a back-to-back, that means the two final games of the season against Charlotte, if he sits those games and finishes the season with 63 games played, then bravo. I will sit here and be like, I'm eating my words. I will symbolically eat a plate of chicken and be like, this is actually crow, and I'm eating it. But
crows are cool. They're too smart. You can't eat a crow.
They're
too smart. They might be smarter than me. So don't eat a crow.
No, then give yourself some credit.
All right, thank you. But they're smart. Smart animals.
I didn't say they weren't smarter than you. I'm just saying give yourself some credit.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I'm actually going to be doing the opposite. I think here's the thing. I'm not going to be giving Jaylen any credit at this point. When you're playing in these games, no, now you have to go to for 65. You might as well.
You have to, right?
I don't. Yeah, okay. You're doing this for all NBA purposes to try to make that. Right. I get that, but finish the job. What are we doing here?
Here's what you do. You play him Phoenix, Washington. You play him in one of the back-to-backs. Charlotte, you start him. He plays the whole first quarter and sits.
Yep.
Plays 8 minutes of the second quarter, sits. 20 minutes, done.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The
Play him
13
in the first quarter and sit him the rest of the way. I don't care. But
You have to play the 20 minutes. That's the threshold. You got to play 20 minutes for it to count. You got to play 20 minutes for it to count. That's why I'm saying this. So you play him, you come out, you warm up, you play him the whole first quarter, then he sits the whole second quarter. And then you come out, you play him 8 minutes in the third, and then he sits. He's done for the game. You get him his 20 minutes. You make sure he gets his 20 minutes. And then on that Sunday, you make sure he gets his 20 minutes. And then we could all be like, it was 65 games was still important to you. And as I've said, of course it is.
Yes.
That's the rule. That's the system.
Yes.
All of these guys are not qualifying left and right. Kevin Durant just fell off. He's going to fall off he's not qualified. Why wouldn't you give yourself a chance to sneak into a third team? Is Jaylen generally, with everybody healthy, having an all-NBA season? Maybe not, but But if a few guys drop off from eligibility and he gets in, no one's going to look back and be like, oh, that was a little sketchy. At the end, when they go into the Hall of Fame, which we'll talk about later, they'll be like 2, 3, whatever. It'll count in the number of all NBA teams that he made. Mm-hmm. And no one will remember this. Well, I will remember. I hope I remember. It would suck if I forget, because that means that I'll probably be forgetting a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. So I have a theory for Jaylen and that whole thing. I kind of talked about it already, but is there value to him playing these games besides the 65 game thing? Is there value to him trying to figure this out and manage the pain? Are these games going to be worth getting him to figure out how to manage the pain? Let's discuss that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. There are a lot of great basketball games on between March Madness and the NBA. Maybe you're watching late night baseball or something else. You're probably losing sleep watching awesome sports on TV. 5 Hour Energy has your back. Whatever it is, they give you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I was up till 4 o'clock after a game night. I'm going to be up pretty late. I'm up late when I'm covering the Celtics. You know what? When I travel for the playoffs, I'm going to throw some of these 5 Hour Energies into my bag. And the next day when I'm kind of dragging, boop, little 5 Hour Energy shot. It's going to help me keep up that next day. We got longer days, so I'm going to need to get through these days to get outside. Maybe I'm going to Miami. Maybe I'm going to Orlando. After shoot around is done, after my podcasting is done, I'm going to want to be outside enjoying some of this Florida weather. So let me go get some of this 5 Hour Energy, a tropical burst, maybe a watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. There's 15 flavors to choose from, so you can head to 5hourenergy.com, find all those flavors. You can build out your own 12-pack or 24-pack and get it delivered right to your door. Need one right now? Head to the local grocery store, convenience store. They are everywhere. Stock up today. Get yourself a 5 Hour Energy shot. 5 Hour Energy. Pretty good. I wonder if that's a good tagline. Pretty good. It's pretty good. Today's show is also brought to you by Wayfair. It's another thing that I use a lot. My wife and I, half our house is Wayfair. It's very easy. I know it's springtime. With that added sunlight, you're looking at everything, and you're like, maybe we want to move some things around. Wayfair is really the best kept secret for all things home improvement. You want small updates like cabinet hardware, or major upgrades like a new vanity, sink, outdoor lighting. Wayfair has quality products for every budget. We're actually talking about moving some things out. We did some work. We enclosed our porch. We're going to move a couch out there. We need a new couch for inside. Guess what I'm getting all the time? Wayfair links texted to me. Hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? So their free fast shipping is going to make it very easy once we make a decision. It's hard to make a decision because there's so many great options, but no hauling heavy items from the store. And they've got top brands. If you want an appliance like GE and Moen at great prices, shopping is seamless. You find exactly what you need to fit your space and style. Wayfair makes home improvement super easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA Game Night. I'll be on there. Hey, when I'm done with this, I'm going and catching up on that Miami-Memphis game, which is 103-99 as I speak in the fourth quarter. And we'll be discussing all of that stuff, the implications, the playoff implications on Locked On NBA Game Night. It's a 7-night-a-week podcast, so go check that out. Subscribe to Locked On NBA, Locked On NBA Game Night, wherever you found Locked On Celtics. All right, Tom Westerholm. There you are. If this is seriously knee pain for Jaylen Brown, and it's not the impending, more serious injury. If it's just figuring out how to play, is there value to him like going through his warm-ups and being like, no, this thing bothers me, or I need to figure out how to land, how to take off, how to play a different way, and maybe, and this is I understand this is green goggled spin, but it's worth at least exploring the green goggle spin because we all know the doom and gloom stuff. You've got 5 more games. He's going to play. Let's say he's going to play 5 of 6. Is it worth the figuring out of like, okay, I can't be as explosive getting to the rim. How do I work? How do I, execute certain plays? Who do you study and try to what is the word I'm looking for? Add their thing to your repertoire, into your bag. And like, is there value to that? Because if it's going to be pain and he's going to deal with it until the off season, then he's got to figure it out somehow. Maybe there is some value to figuring it out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, there might be. I will say, I think I'm of two minds of it, right? Because if, on the one hand, I'm doing the thing that I hate, which is when people who used to play a much lower level of basketball try to compare their situation to a much higher level of basketball with much better facilities and everything else. But I don't know. When I stopped playing basketball, I suddenly was able to use my knees again. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's some part of me that's kind of like, it just gets worse. You know what I mean? Like your knees, when your knees hurt, it's hard for your knees to like, it's hard to do things. And that doesn't necessarily get easier. So I think that's the one side of it. But I mean, there is something to the idea of learning how to play and of kind of getting a certain level of comfort, with these, when you're at that level, when there's, if you can't do the things that you're best at when your knees are perfectly healthy and you can't do those things, but you're still good enough that there's a bunch of other stuff that you can do that's still productive. I think, I could see that argument for sure. I think, and I think too, when you think about the fact that the playoffs themselves are, for a team like the Celtics, long, right? Like, even if he rested now and got himself healthy for the first round, then he's going to have to play a lot, and his knees are going to start hurting again. So at that point, by resting, are you just kicking the can down the road for a future time when you're going to have to learn these things and kind of get used to these things? I mean, to your point, right? Like, I don't know how much rest is really going to help him, which is why, again, 20 minutes a game. Get this man to the All-NBA team. Like, I think we just keep coming back to that. But no, I do see your point. I think there is something to that because, like, again, the playoffs are long. Everybody's going to be banged up by the end of it. For Jaylen, his knee is going to hurt by the time the Celtics, in wherever the Celtics end their playoff run, whether that's in the, conference finals or as NBA champions or whatever it is, like his knee is going to hurt. So you might as well get used to it now. I do think there is something to that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very curious because, he said, we have a plan. We're formulating a plan. And I'm assuming that there's some level of like pain killing shots or something along those lines or maybe some things that you can do that will take like, hey, we're going to give you this shot or this platelet rich therapy or something like that. And you're going to need a day or two off, and he can't take these days off during the season and get to 65. You can do that in that week off. And because there's no one significantly difficult to prepare for, like you going crazy, like Joe Mazzulla is going to prepare his butt off for all of these teams, right? Because you do not want to take anybody lately. But the reality, like our reality is like, whatever. Okay, Atlanta, are we afraid of Atlanta beating the Celtics in the first round? Like maybe they'll win a game or two.
I won't be afraid of Atlanta beating the Celtics in the first round if Jaylen just got platelet.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Like we've been saying, rest. Maybe the plan is Jaylen just misses the first round of the playoffs. Those are dragged out anyway. He can miss 3 weeks and just miss one round. The Celtics can get by any of these teams without Jaylen Brown. Maybe you just say, maybe that's the plan. And honestly, I wouldn't object to that plan. I really wouldn't.
I wouldn't object to that plan, even with him playing the 20 minutes a game to get him to 65. Like,
Right.
I'm fine with that. I honestly, yeah, dude, do what you got to do. Like,
if you get to that 65, play 20 minutes, like he could stand there on the sideline with a watch on, with a countdown being like 3, 2, 1, and then like foul somebody
immediately.
get out with exactly 20 minutes. What would be hilarious? You'd be like, well, we reviewed it and it was 1959. You don't qualify. but yes, do all that. Sit that week, like that first round takes 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
So take 3 weeks off, rest your knee, and be fine for the second round. Totally cool if that ends up being the plan, because Miami, Atlanta, Orlando, Chicago, do they need Jaylen Brown to beat any of those teams? No. So maybe that's going to be the answer.
Horford and all them are healthy. Like, that's
right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I mean, you could just say Jalen's questionable, and if everybody else is healthy, you like sit him. Okay, boom, done.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to rule him out. You'd be like, whatever. Like a playoff series, you just get Baylor Shireman can play in the first round of a playoff series. Why not?
Sure.
Who cares? Seriously.
I'm in.
Fun. Sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
All right, Baylor Shireman, obvious Hall of Famer, right?
That was gonna be my joke. Don't blah.
Bang, bang, bang. And now they know that the NBA is only giving warnings for finger guns. Bang, bang, bang. Boom, boom, boom.
Well, I'm logging off. Appreciate you.
All right. Hi. Who's a Hall of Famer on this team? Let's talk about that. Done talking about Jaylen. I want this to be like the last conversation. It's not going to be, but I get it. Who's a Hall of Famer? I brought it up the other day. Let's kind of parse that out when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by the good folks over at Open Phone. Open Phone is going to help your small business, because I know you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls all day, all night. And as your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just one phone, your personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. We need that separation. For $15 a month, that's it. The cost of a few coffees. You get complete transparency, visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of all your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OpenPhone, OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off 6 months. OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter. It's over at LockedOnDaily.com. You can click on that Locked On Celtics logo, enter your email. I will send you an email Monday through Friday. Celtic coverage, NBA coverage, fantasy coverage, links to Celtics coverage around the internet. If you're missing a podcast, this is a great way to keep up with the podcast because the Celtics content is very much based on what we're talking about. So it's kind of like a written story based on it. So go check it out and read it. Open it up, read it, I say. Tom, I wrote we've talked this a little bit. I wrote a story over at Boston Sports Journal about this is the good old days. These are the good old days right now. Andy Bernard from The Office, a famous scene. I wish people would, I wish you knew when the good old days were happening before you've left them, something along those lines. And this, I'm telling everybody now, these are the good old days of this. These are the 20s Celtics. We don't normally talk about the team like via the decade. Like we talk about the 80s Celtics and we talk about the 60s Celtics. These are the 20s Celtics, which is weird to say. But when we look back on this team, there are going to be a lot of Hall of Famers, right? One of the things that I love is I have a photo somewhere over here where it's the Celtics and Lakers jump ball, and you're like, that's a Hall of Famer. That's a Hall of Famer. That's a Hall of Famer. So many Hall of Famers in this one photo. When it's all said and done, the Celtics are going to have a lot. That jump ball photo from this year's finals or last year's finals, you're going to be like, wow, there were a lot of Hall of Famers on that team. So let's kind of talk through it and figure out who is definitely getting in. Jayson Tatum. Do we even have to discuss Jayson Tatum?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably getting in. He doesn't have to play another minute of basketball.
He's a current Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer. Yep. Jaylen Brown. Now,
I think he's in. We've talked about this a little bit. I think he's in.
It's interesting because, like, at the beginning of this last season, I feel like people were like, really? You're going to say Jaylen Brown's a Hall of Famer? And over the course of last season, winning a championship, finals MVP, and all that stuff. And I think people are like, oh, okay, yeah. And I've had this discussion with a couple of people just before games, sitting around eating dinner. And I think the consensus from just the loose conversations I've had, people are like, yeah, he's in. Like, there's not even a question. So, but first of all, if we add another title to this team this year, then I think all of these discussions go away. So Jaylen, I think we're right. I think it's fair to say Jaylen is in. Jrue Holiday. Is Jrue Holiday?
Just real quick, I will say, like, Jaylen has 4 All-Stars right now. Mitch Richmond has 6. And I feel like Mitch Richmond is like
below.
No disrespect to Mitch Richmond, but it's like, that's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like Mitch Richmond is like one of your higher tiered Hall of Famers. Jaylen has 4 and a finals MVP. To me, that is like, that's worth at least 2 All-Stars. So anyway.
And he'll get a couple more All-Stars. Like he'll surpass.
He'll get there on All-Stars for sure. Yeah.
And by getting to that 65 games this year, get to that All-NBA. I do think he can get to, considering how many guys have fallen off the qualification, I think he can get to that 13.
Mitch Richmond, 5-time All-NBA. That's
Mitch Richmond was good. He was good.
Very good. Mitch Richmond, I do want to clarify that I'm not ripping on Mitch Richmond.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, right? We are talking about a Hall of Famer. So like,
yes. But I just five-time All-NBA. I'm impressed. I retract him as my example. But anyway.
Jrue Holiday.
Yeah.
His case, I think, is pretty strong, actually.
Yeah.
2 championships already.
Yep.
Potentially a third. He has 15,000 points, which is a lot of points. I think, I don't want to say he falls under the Ray Allen discussion, but like a little bit. And we've mentioned this before. The concept of what he used to be before his most recent years, it's like, he has multiple. He, like, a couple years ago, he had a 50-point game. Like he's at 16,387 points as of right now. That's a lot of points for a guy that was, what is he, 5-time all defense, 6-time all defense.
All defense. Yep.
6-time all defense, couple of All-Stars, all those points.
Yeah.
I think he's got a solid case. I think Holiday gets in.
I think he's close. I certainly think another championship and you're really in business. I mean, I will say one season scoring 20 or more per game is like, that's a little low. The consistency is great. I mean, he's been, what is it? Been, like, looking at it here, it's like basically between 14 and 21. That was over like a decade. Like that's good. Those are good numbers. But yeah, I mean, I think I like his case. I think it's worth rewarding a guy who, that Bucks team, he was the 3rd best player on that team, right? I mean, that is not nothing. Like the Celtics team, he was the almost the luxury piece, but he was still very important. And So yeah, no, I'm with it. He was in the defensive player of the year voting a bunch of times here. Not like particularly high, but like, top 10 a few times. So
he has what, 2 gold medals?
Yeah, that's a good point.
2 gold medals. That helps. I think there's something there.
Yeah.
Especially since was it Michael Cooper got in, that they've opened the door, and like Chauncey Billups got in. Like, like
Michael Cooper's an interesting one because there's like some with him, there's a little bit of that can you tell the story of the game without him type thing. You know what I mean? Where it's like, there's like the Lakers and all that stuff. But
how many times did Chauncey Billups average 20 points per game?
Yeah, that's a good question. And
zero.
I mean,
zero.
Yeah. Oh, is it literally zero?
Literally zero.
Huh. Well, and to your point, right? Like Holiday, he's played a lot of years, and I mean, scoring is up, right? So like you go back to like he was playing in 2010. There weren't as many guys scoring 20 a game back then. So.
Chauncey played 17 years and has 15,802 points. So has fewer points than Holiday in one more season. So
fewer titles too.
Fewer titles. But he's a 5-time All-Star, where Holiday is a 2-time All-Star. He is 3-time All-NBA, whereas Holiday 0-time All-NBA. So he got some of those mentions, and never once have we talked about how many games he played in those All-NBA seasons. I still think Holiday
defensive though.
Yeah, and so that 4 extra times, I think does matter. I think those kind of like almost rise to the occasion. Maybe 2 all defense equals 1 all NBA or something like that. But I think Holiday has a case.
I do too.
Al Horford.
I think he's in.
You think he's in?
I think he's in. Yeah. I mean, I think
with a second title, he's definitely in.
For sure. But I'm pretty good on him as it is. I mean, he's got 1 all NBA. You look back on those, he was so integral to those Hawks teams, 5-time All-Star, integral to this whole era of the Celtics. He's won a championship. I'm good on him. I think I'm in on Al Horford. I think, and I mean, again, you're talking about a guy like, 0 20-point per game. So I mean, I'm arguing against myself here, but I think Horford's had such a huge impact so often. And I mean with him too, right? There's the college aspect. There's 2
national champions. Yep.
I think Horford's in myself.
And on top of that, I think you could make the case that Horford was part of that big man changing his game, like for a guy to reinvent himself.
Yep.
And have a second act the way he has and been as impactful as he has from like as a completely different player. Like the Al Horford at the beginning of his Hawks career, and then the Al Horford towards the end, and then post Celtics, totally different styles of play offensively, and still just as still good, still really good.
Has excelled at both of them. Yeah. I do think that also speaks to him as a team player, right? Like this is a guy who could have done all of that at once and instead just kind of did what the team needed.
Yeah.
I think that matters a lot.
You think there's anybody else? You think Derek White has an argument at all? Because I don't know if Derek White can get there.
Yeah, I don't know if Derek White can get there. I think that I think it's almost like he's almost a little too old at this point. It's like because I do think that there's I think Derek White, if Derek White was like 25, 26 doing this, I think that you'd be looking at him and thinking, hey, mate, there might be all-stars in the future. I think one that's kind of interesting is like if Kristaps Porzingis was healthy for longer, you know what I mean? Like if you could guarantee health with him, or if you'd already I think then it might be interesting because there's a chance, right, that this season if he's healthy the whole time and the Celtics win a title, I mean, he's going to play a really important role in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting, but yeah, I think that White is probably a little bit too old at this stage, and it pains me because he's awesome. But
he's having his last 2 seasons are Hall of Fame worthy seasons. Like if that was who he was his entire career. You got to remember his first few years in San Antonio were not this, right? This was not.
People liked him a lot. People were like, "Ooh, this guy's good."
He's a solid player. He doesn't have a college resume. He doesn't have an international resume.
If anything, his college, his lack of a college resume almost works in his favor because it's such an interesting story.
Yeah,
but it's like, he doesn't have like.
But you don't. you lack the like. There's no all-stars. He's got 2 all-defensive teams, but no all-stars. At this point, 30 years old, he's only scored 6,335 points. He doesn't have like the counting stats. He just has like, he's in like the Isaiah Thomas Celtics Hall of Fame. Like maybe they retire Derek White's number someday, or honor him in some similar way. But that I just don't think D White has the case. I don't think Porzingis has the case because of all the injuries and all of that.
It is too bad because when you look at the stats, right? I mean, he's been averaging, if you round up, he's been averaging like rounded up 2 blocks a game for his entire career. He's been averaging, he's got a bunch of like 20 plus, per game seasons, but it's not enough. There's not enough games played. Didn't play enough on last year's. Like he'd be almost a little bit interesting if like he had just gone on like a tear through the Eastern Conference, and in the finals last year. If he could have put together 2 healthy seasons last year and this year and just been like a monster in the playoffs both years and the Celtics win back-to-back titles, then I think you're like, you have to have some kind of a conversation about him at that point. Like if he was like super valuable on 2 championship teams, but him sitting out most of last year, I feel like is kind of like, all right, well, a good career.
We're going to wrap this up, but quickly. It's too early for Joe Mazzulla. It's too early for Brad Stevens. But
not too early for Baylor Shireman, but yep.
Not too early for Baylor Shireman, who is, by the way, 24-year-old rookie. But the starts to their careers. Well, Brad, first of all, has the Butler days.
Yeah.
And a pretty successful coaching career before he moved to the front office.
Oh yeah.
You could be like, hey, college coaching was amazing, right? Like he could have stayed in college and been a Hall of Famer, a lock Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
His pro career was not bad, right? It was pretty good.
Very good.
Just
very good. Missed the playoffs once.
Yeah, like he was really good, right? So he benefited from like the Isaiah Thomas years and all that stuff. But regardless, every great coach benefits
from the Brad Stevens years. Yeah.
Yes. And now he's running this team and like running it perfectly.
Yep.
I think a couple more like championships somewhere along the way. If this guy gets like, if he's the executive during 3 championship runs, like maybe not even 3, maybe it's just the 2.
I think another one. He's got a really good shot.
He's got a real good shot at it.
Yeah.
And Joe is only getting started.
Another one. He's got a really good shot at it.
He's got 3 seasons, 55 plus wins. He's going to have potentially 2 60-win seasons already. If he wins another 2 championships in his first 3 seasons, like
2 championships, period. How many? I don't know the answer to this. And I know we're in line. I don't know how many coaches are there out there who've won 2 championships in the NBA who are not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
It can't be many.
Can't be, no. Like yeah. So assuming that if he has longevity in Boston, right? If he sticks around and it works, and okay, so let's say they win a championship this year, and who knows how it goes down the road, but as long as they're still good and in the mix, he has a real opportunity. So we're looking at legitimately like 6 Hall of Famers associated with this team.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Well, a Hall of Fame performance by you.
I know. I mean, as usual. Yeah.
As usual. Thank you so much, Tom.
Appreciate you, man.
I always appreciate Tom. I appreciate you listening, sticking around. Hopefully a bunch of you have stayed. 40-minute podcast. I'm getting in trouble for this one, but that's okay. It was worth it. Good discussion all the way around. Again, tomorrow Friday is the Celtics Suns. Unless something egregious or insane happens, no bonus podcast there. I will wrap up the Suns and the Wizards in one podcast Sunday after that game. That's the plan for this week. So subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you're watching the show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. And I would love it if you shared the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.